Hi, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner.
And our dog, Betty White.
Your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably. But it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure. Yada, yada, yada. After running our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real-life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Shannon.
And I'm Jerry.
Betty White is hanging with us, and we are here with episode 14 of the Arner Adventures Podcast. We are so excited for today's episode. Did you know that March is Women's History Month?
Why, yes, I did know that March was Women's History Month. As a dutiful husband, I am aware of these things.
Okay, great. Great. You are quite the feminist, so it does not surprise me that you know. Well, today's episode is a Spark in Our Lives episode where we have a guest who has been a spark in our lives. And today's guest is a true spark in our lives, of course. She's actually a spark in a lot of people's lives. And with it being Women's History Month, she's done a ton for women. She's a light in my life and just a huge support for a lot of people, not just women. But before we get to the guest, let's get to the review of the week.
And this one comes from Coastal Image.
You wanna read it?
Okay, I'll do the honors.
Okay.
Authentic when that doesn't seem to exist. This couple keeps it real, and so do their guests. This podcast has been consistent since day one, just like I had hoped they would be. Cheers to a great success so far and many more great episodes ahead. Highly recommend.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty nice.
That is nice.
Very nice.
Coastal Image. I wonder if Coastal is the first name and Image is the last name, because that's a pretty cool name.
That's a really cool name, and it does appear to be that.
Or I wonder if Coastal Image is a business. I wonder if Coastal Image is here on our coast or is maybe a different country's coast. I don't know, but Coastal Image, DM us.
Or somewhere in the heartland of our country. And just ironically, they went with Coastal.
Yeah, Coastal Image, I'm trying to get in touch with you because we would love to give you a Sugar Wish. If you'd love to be our review of the week and get the chance to receive a gift from Sugar Wish, please take a moment and give us a 5-star rating or review. We have an easy link for you all to follow. It's lovethepodcast.com/Arner Adventures. But per usual, we will link it for you in the show notes. It really helps us so much to support us in that way and keeps us moving right along, consistent, motivated, just like Coastal Image said. So thank you again.
Well, let's go ahead and get to our guest today, shall we?
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you, I was out of town when this was recorded, so Jerry couldn't be with me for the interview. So this time I was the one on an adventure, but it did not stop me because I, of course, wanted to accommodate this guest and her schedule. Jerry, you always help me prepare for these. We're together in spirit for these interviews, of course.
Oh, we sure are.
And you do come up a few times in the interview, but we won't spoil it. Should we just get to it?
We should just get right to it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I am so honored to welcome our guest today. She puts so many good vibes out into the world. All that she does for women, all that she does for everyone, lifting them up. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a funk, maybe not wanting to get started with my day, and I'll randomly receive just the right message in my DM from her with exactly what I need to hear, sending me in the right direction to put me in a higher place. With March being Women's History Month, I just could not think of anyone to lift us up, to recognize for all that she does, especially in contemporary society, but especially for women. Our guest today is LaToi Storr, also known as Toi. But let me tell you about Toi. Toi is a lifestyle blogger, podcaster, and content creator. Her other responsibilities include being a wife and a mother of 3. As a content creator, her stance has always been to talk about mental health, which of course resonates with us. When she started her blog 7 years ago, it was after her therapist encouraged her to tell her story and write, as this was her passion. Since then, she has gone on to speak at conferences. She's a She Media partner. Through She Media and Blog Her Conferences is how we connected, and I'm so thankful that we did. Her goals will remain to uplift, encourage, and help other women with her storytelling. She is dedicated to telling the stories even when things don't look glamorous. In her spare time, you can find her walking the aisles of Target with no shame, or at a coffee shop, making sure she is getting her self-care time. Toi, thank you so much for taking some of that self-care time with us. We are so appreciative that you're here.
Well, thank you absolutely for having me. I'm excited.
You live in Philadelphia, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And are you there currently?
I am here currently.
Okay.
I have no vacations yet set up. I'm working on that. So yeah, but I'm in Philadelphia, Philly, and with my husband and those 3 babies. They're not babies. They're not babies. But
how old are your kids?
12, 10, and 8.
Okay.
So girl, boy, girl.
Are you from Philly originally?
Nope. So I actually was born in Youngstown, Ohio. And my mother left Youngstown, Ohio to go to Los Angeles, and from Los Angeles to Virginia, where she met my stepfather. And my stepfather was in the military, so we moved around a lot. And the longest place that we stayed was in Lancaster, which is 2 hours from Philly. And that's where the majority, and when I say the majority, I mean my parents, my twin sister, my brother, their kids, my grandparents, most of them live there, or they're in South Carolina or other places. But that's how my family is, where they're at. And then I went to Penn State University. That's how I met my husband, who was born and raised in Philly. So of course it was natural for me to then be here in Philly to start our family here.
Okay. And so you've been in Philly how long now?
11 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. So does that, I guess you are considered a Philly?
I consider Philly, yes. So my husband said that listen, so this was the joke. As long as once I hit 10, then I can call myself a Philly John. And so now it's 11. So I'm like solidified. So now Philly is home. Lancaster is always my second home. And then wherever my feet goes, that's where I am.
Okay. Oh, you got your official papers.
My official papers, according to my Philadelphia born husband, is that I am now can call Philadelphia mine. And
gotcha.
How that works.
Okay. We love, my husband is from outside of, well, when he was younger, his family are all from Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. And so when he was smaller, he lived there and then moved to North Carolina when he was younger. But we love Philly. We haven't been back since the pandemic hit and all of that, but I love it so much.
I am waiting for, well, now that the world is sort of kind of opening, I am so excited to get my travel shoes back on.
Yeah.
Because I just love taking trips, whether that's a road trip. I love flying. Like I cannot wait.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I want to jump right in, especially since you're an OG in the blogger world, especially 7 years. I mean, that's considered an OG in the
Okay, I'll take it.
I love your backstory and how you got started. It sounds like from what I know, which we'll get into, is that it was a healing journey of you getting started in your blog. So I want to talk about, if you're open to it, how it was in that sense of when you started your blog, your therapist recommended that you start writing. Did he or she suggest the blog, or what was the point of you saying, okay, not only am I going to start writing, but I'm going to start a blog? And with that, with a blog, it is, as we were saying before we started the podcast, the streets of the internet. You're putting things on the streets of the internet. So that's a vulnerable spot. So what made you say, okay, I'm going to not only start writing, but it is like opening your journal to the streets of the internet. So
Right.
what was that process like, and how did you make that decision?
So in the streets of the internet, and I'm going to continuously say that because that's what it
I love
is. I started, so my therapist, she was like, there has to be some type of other passions. I was dealing with postpartum depression. And so I did everything that the textbook said. I went to my, family and friends, the people in my unit, and I was like, hey, I'm going through this. And I kept hearing people say, go take a nap when the baby is sleeping. You're okay. Whatever, it's fine, and I was really struggling. Like when I say struggling, if anyone has ever dealt with postpartum depression, depending on how extreme or how low it may be, it's like seeing yourself about to have a reaction to the littlest or the biggest of things, telling yourself not to have that reaction, but then having that reaction. I tell this story all the time because I know there's women that are listening that need to hear this. I was caring for this baby. I had a toddler and I had this my newborn son, 2 babies at one time, basically. And I'm doing all the things. I'm changing the diapers. I'm getting, the bottles. I'm doing all the things that every mother knows to do. But there was a point in time where I was losing me. So I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't taking care of my parents. I was just existing. And all of these different responsibilities were too much. And I didn't have this outlet to say, can somebody please help me? Especially in the Black community, we're taught to withhold information. Don't tell people your business. So the thought of me even going to therapy was suggested by a friend who was like, I can't imagine what you're going through, but maybe you should think about therapy. And I was like, girl, now we don't do therapy. And that's exactly what I said. However, the very first meeting at my therapist, I sat in that office crying like a huge baby because it was a weight lifted off my shoulder, because it was the first time that I was being seen and I was being heard. And we hear stories about how our partners, are, they're helping, they're so helpful and they're doing these things. My partner at the time, my husband, was not as helpful. He just didn't understand it. It was something that was very new to both of us. And that release and crying was just one of those moments. Like I can even feel it now. Like it was just like that thought when you finally are heard. Yeah. I'm trying not to get these tears crying today. Wow. But like when you finally are heard and you're finally seen after your mind has, basically said that, something is wrong and you're not going to get it right, or you're not going to be a good mom, or you're not going to be a good woman. And I had too many things happening at one time. And so my therapist, after a while, it took a long time. Like I'm not going to act as if I went to therapy and then I cried that cry and then I went home and everything was great, because it wasn't. Yeah. It was a process. I had to be on medication for a certain amount of time, which was another thing that I was taught not to do. And after a while, this was maybe, I might have been in therapy for that particular situation for maybe 6 months, because, people tell you that postpartum is like, a couple of weeks after the baby is born. I went through postpartum for almost a full year of trying to gather my thoughts and regulate my emotions. It was a lot. Yeah. My therapist says, well, you've been talking about this love of writing, you should consider a blog. And at the time I was like, what's a blogger? What is this? So I didn't even realize that the things that I was reading things from other bloggers, not realizing that this was a profession, that there were people out here professionally writing and doing this as a living. And it was never my intention in the beginning to do that. It was just my intention of using it, like my therapist said, as a way of me combining my love of writing with this thing that it wasn't associated with me being a mom. It was something that was my own. So it didn't matter my title. It didn't matter my responsibilities. It was something that was exclusively mine.
Right. So did you feel like when you first started, were you completely 100% authentic? Were you censoring your feelings? How was that?
Oh, no. I censoring my feelings was just one of those things that I just refused to do. I felt like I had done that so long, censoring myself to fit everybody's mold, that I was very clear on not. So that's why when you read the introduction, when I say, like, I'll talk about those times, like you can go read beautiful things about the things I've done. And, I go out and about in Philadelphia and things like that. Those are beautiful parts, but I'm still writing about the times when the struggle was real, where I'm sitting in my house or I'm sitting in a car crying and trying to gather myself because I got to come back in the house and act like things are not okay. Or that things are okay when they're not. Like, I will write about that because it's in that there's another woman or another person that is reading my blog that needs that. They need to be able to see themselves instead of seeing the after effects after the medication is, done its job, after, you've done all the self-care and you're okay. There are those moments even still where these are real feelings. This is real. So I try my best to never really censor myself and tell it like it is, because I feel like people gravitate to that and people need to see that. We go on social media and people realize that social media is literally just a drop of a dime of the real life that's happening. But I've posted plenty of times, like I'll go back and show a picture of me holding my son or my daughter or daughters or something, and I'll say, this is a great picture, but now let me tell you what happened behind the scenes.
I've seen that.
I've struggled that day because right before that picture was taken, I was in the bathroom crying. Or right before that picture was taken, I was having an argument with my husband. And it's not because I'm trying to throw myself underneath the internet street bus, but I feel like that is the part where people really they can see themselves.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. So and that's the reason why when it comes to motivating people or telling people, that they can get through it, is because I didn't have that. So I always want to be that. Like, I never want someone to encounter me and say, ooh, she gave me these bad vibes, or she was acting weird or acting strange, because I know what it feels like to have that happen to you. And especially when you're in the midst of a mental health issue, or you're in the midst of a trauma, or if you're in the midst of just having one of those bad days, which we are all entitled to. That's the last thing I want to project into this world.
Right. So when you started, and I'm going to move on from the beginning in a second. I'm so curious, because I know that when we started our blog, it was of course from a healing place, and it was also to sort of let ours came off of when we sold our house and our business and all this stuff, and I say it all the time, and I don't use the word, crazy train in a negative sense or trying to make fun of anything. But I really do think people thought we were on the rails of a crazy train. They were like, what? Their life is about to implode. Let's watch it. I mean, I really think they were wondering what is going on with them. But we started the blog as a way of people wanting to keep up with us and what was going on with them. But we really started the blog from healing. And I remember putting blogs out there and just pouring everything out, and then later going, I cannot believe I just said all of that. And I wonder if I should delete it. And I didn't delete it, but I remember that those vulnerable feelings of thinking, like at first just feeling kind of yucky, but then also kind of freeing. And so I just wonder, in your situation, did you feel good? Or what was the feeling like when you would blog? Was it a freeing feeling for you?
It definitely was freeing, but I will say I never felt the need to delete it. I will say that I had a lot of people very angry. So let me just say, I never in my entire time of blogging have ever dropped names, have ever threw anybody underneath the bus. Even the times when I've talked about the times where my husband wasn't, understanding. He and I will have that conversation, and he'll say, and he's been very supportive, like that was your truth. Like, tell that, like, even though that made to others think that he was looking at it in a bad light. But I will say, like, my family, they were like, I can't believe you told someone that. I can't believe you would share your story about having a hysterectomy and the things that you went through behind the background scenes. And I'm like, when I was going through the hysterectomy, I actually went, at that time, I was well-seasoned blogger, and I went into the blogging world to see if anybody else was talking about that, because I needed advice about what to expect. Yeah. And I couldn't find it. So then I started writing about my experience, because I needed other people to, when they had their situation, they could go and look for it. So I've had many people say, I don't think I would have told that. Or, that was a lot of information. Like, you really went into detail about that. And my response is the same. I'm doing this because it's bigger than me. This has nothing to do with whether or not I will use me. Listen, I will use me every day of the week and run me into the ground on these internet streets, because I can take it. But it doesn't make sense to me to say that I'm a blogger for the people and then give people like the bare bone minimum.
Yeah.
And so I've never had a point where I wanted to delete, but I have had, adversity where people were like, why are you sharing that? That's a lot. But in the midst of people asking or saying those types of things, and I'm talking about people who were show enough close to me, like show enough close to me have said that. I haven't stopped it and I'm not going to, because in the midst of having that, there are women that will email me or DM me or whatever and say, nobody was talking about that. I needed to hear that. So that just balances it out. So yeah, I will share the details. Like I will share them.
You know what I love about water? Well, other than living by it.
Well, there are a million things to love about water. The sea life, the healing properties, part of the Earth's
Okay, all
atmosphere.
that, but I love drinking water.
Well, of course. But did you know that humans can only live a few days without water?
Yes, yet so many people live a dehydrated lifestyle.
Well, Liquid IV makes it super easy to stay hydrated.
Hey, folks, Liquid IV isn't scary. There aren't any IVs involved.
No, Liquid IV is a hydration multiplier. It's a powder form, an electrolyte mix that you just add to your water. It delivers 2 to 2.5 more hydration than water alone.
They have all kinds of flavors you can choose from, and they have some with energy multiplier and immune support. Also a benefit, they are non-GMO, gluten-free, soy-free, and dairy-free.
If you're someone who either has trouble getting your water in or maybe just wants to get in the express lane with your hydration, you should definitely try Liquid IV.
For our listeners, if you go to their website, liquid-iv.com, and use code ARNERADVENTURES, you can save 25% off of your order and get free shipping.
That's awesome. We'll link it in the show notes too. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures. It warms my heart so much.
Yeah, I get it all the time. Like, I mean, it goes with the territory. I feel like when you're a blogger, like I'm not a fashion blogger, so I'm not critiquing the dresses that are on the runway. I'm not a full-time food blogger, even though I do talk about food. So it's different when you're coming from that perspective. But when you're putting yourself out there, you have to understand you got to come with 5 seconds level of thick skin and still be human, to the point where you're not going to get people understanding the process. They don't understand why you're saying that. They don't understand, why you're doing that. But it's interesting. The same people who said something to me, they're like, oh, I want to have a business where I'm helping other people. And I'm like, you can't help people. You're never going to be able to help anybody if you can't talk about yourself.
Right.
I cannot tell you that I struggled in an area instead of just coming to you when the struggle was over. You're not going to be able to help somebody, because people that are in need of help, they're in the struggle. They're not in the part where everything is glamorous, because if that was the case, there's nobody to help.
It's that whole authentic word. It's like authentic doesn't even on the internet mean authentic anymore. It's like it's a curated authentic. And it's like, let's be authentic.
You know what people think authentic is on the internet now? They think that as long as you have one of those pastel-y, posts that look really airy and beautiful, that's what they consider authentic. Authentic to me is being true to yourself and being honest for where you are. And for me, I said this all the time, where I'm at may not always look glamorous. Where I'm at may not always fit this mold of beautiful pictures on the internet. It's just not, because that's not necessarily how life goes. Right. And so, yes, I may show those things because, yes, that's what I show. But I'm the type of person that will go right back and be like, and let me tell you what happened, because it's those moments where people are. That's where people are. If you want to be authentic and you can't be real and you can't tell when you've messed it up and you've blown it 20 million times.
Yeah.
Then you're not being really real.
So this leads me to you being, you're known as the self-care queen. And in this day of people leaning more into social media and leaning more into being available all the time, how do you put boundaries on yourself as a content creator and being more available on limiting yourself to social media? Like, how do you handle that as a content creator and not burning out?
So a lot of times I will have one day a week where I am curating content. So I may change out of many outfits, but I am sitting down thinking, what is the things that I want to talk about that resonate with what I'm dealing with, or mental health care or self-care. And I will sit down and I'll make a day where I try to curate as much content as possible. I will set posts in my, like I have a calendar that I have set, and I will make sure that those posts, happen on those days. But I am honestly, when I just dealt with burnout literally this week, where even though I have those things set into place, I was having moments where I was sitting at my laptop and just looking at it. And you know what I decided to do in those moments of quote unquote burnout is to burn myself away from that laptop and literally go take a nap. I will get up. I just decided to get up and take a nap and enjoy the fact that I don't have to be on all the time. My content was already prepared and ready. And so I don't have to feel like I'm on go 24/7. If I'm sitting at my laptop and something's not coming, it's because it's not supposed to. And giving myself permission to say, I never forced any blog. So if I sit at my laptop and something doesn't come, I just get up and walk away. To somebody that's starting out may feel like this pressure to be on, and this pressure to produce, and this pressure to type, and this pressure to do it. I've learned now that never worked. It never worked for me at any point. So now I just continue to remind myself of those lessons I learned in the beginning, is that I'm not forcing any blog to come to me. I'm not forcing content to come. In those moments where it's being forced, it's just a reminder, that little knock on the door that says, go take a nap, go get some coffee, go read a book, go enjoy a magazine, go take a walk, go do something that's exclusively for yourself, and stop feeling guilty. That guilt that we put on ourselves. I just say, listen, that was just my season of rest.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of rest moments this week where I've relaxed and I watched mindless TV, or I read I just finished this book that I would not have had a lot of time to do, but I finished the book and I'm like, that makes me happy. That is really what the form of self-care is. It is recognizing that you need something and then giving yourself permission to give it. It's not just in getting your nails done. It's not just in going to the spa. It's not just taking a bubble bath. It's literally recognizing every single day that I need this time to rejuvenate. I need this time to rest. And I don't think we do enough of that, because now self-care is a trigger word. Everybody's talking about self-care. Yeah. Now it's acceptable to talk about mental health care, because when I was talking about it almost 7 years ago, it was looked down on, like, why is she talking? We don't talk about that. So now that you have these trigger words into the internet streets, a lot of people are jumping on board. I don't mind sharing products that I feel are self-care aware, because I do use them, and I never share anything that I don't use.
Right.
But in the same token, people also need to be reminded some basic things at home that they can do without a product, something that they can do that doesn't require for them to go out and spend money that they may not necessarily have. Like, self-care is something that you can do right in your comforts of your home. Again, I said a 45-minute nap. Do you know how rejuvenated I felt after taking that 45-minute nap, and then not feeling guilty because I had to take a 45-minute nap?
Right.
That's self-care.
Well, you answered my next question, so I'm glad that you answered. Was talking about some of your best self-care practices, which is, it sounds like a nap is probably the best one. And I love that. And you may have answered it, but I am going to ask this next question, is that, do you set yourself on a daily work routine? But it sounds like you sort of go with the flow of what you're feeling is best for you in your season. So do you get up and have a timed routine with work, or no?
I don't, not with work. Now, in the morning, I do have a routine where I try to get up before everyone in my house. I try to give myself that calm down of 10 minutes before the family gets up, because, in a house with 3 kids, it's literally bonkers in here.
Sure.
There's somebody fighting over a bathroom or something like that. So I do give myself that time to get up. I enjoy my coffee or tea in the morning. I listen to podcasts in the morning because that is what gets my mind flowing and my thought process going. The only requirement that I do before I work is that my area that I work in just has to be right.
Yeah.
I'm very organized, and I've gone away from the whole type A personality, but when it comes to my workspace needs to be organized, because it's in the organized that I can sit my laptop down and then start the process of doing that. But there's days when I'm like, oh, well, today's work area is going to be at the coffee shop, so I'll just go there. You know what I mean? So I don't have a set when it comes to work, but when in the morning time, making my bed, in the morning, having my tea or coffee, getting up before the family does, just to have that that mental moment of trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. And also at night, preparing my house. There are certain things that I can do to help. For instance, making sure that I clean up the living room and put things away, making sure the kitchen is clean. Because when I come downstairs and I'm putting out the vitamins and things for the kids, I don't want to have to also be worrying about if the kitchen is clean too, or there's a bunch of shoes that the kids have decided to just kick off in the streets of these of my house and just throw all over the place. So, trying to prepare that. But that's about it. When it comes to the actual work, some days I listen to a podcast while I'm working. Some days I'm listening to music and grooving. Some days I sit in silence and just do what I need to do. It just depends.
I'm very similar in that I have to have things in order before I can create or I can work or anything. I love that instead of you saying your routine for work, you had your routine of you first. I love that you just said that.
Yeah, great. I mean, work is going to happen. Like, we have deadlines, right? Like, there are deadlines. So even if I wanted to, pity pat to the last second, which I never do because that creates another level of anxiety for me. Yeah. But even if I chose to do that, like, I have to take care of me. And so I've gotten used to doing that, because how many years did I go without doing that, right? How many years was I team mom, team wife, and then I got to make sure my family is okay. And then I'm sitting there struggling. So I take care of me, and me taking care of me helps me to make sure that they're good. So when they wake up and they're arguing about who's in the bathroom, carry on, argue it up. I tell people in my house, I have nets. There ain't gonna be no fighting in here. So, but I can say that with a clear mind because I've gotten myself together in preparation that I know that that's what's going to happen.
Right. So it's Women's History Month, and you're the best at lifting women up. And you can always, of course, anybody can go to your feed and look for inspiration or your blog. And I'm going to, of course, speak from, personally, really quickly before I get to the question, that when I am emotionally or mentally drained, not in a great place in my personal sphere, I'm not talking about on the internet or anything like that. If someone needs something emotionally from me, needs some support, and I'm not in a great place, I do try to get it together and, of course, provide support. But sometimes I think to myself, I am not strong enough right now. I am not strong enough. How am I going to get it together to provide the support that this person needs when I don't feel like I'm even strong enough to do it? So then I'm thinking about, I know that there are times when talking about being a content creator that, you have these schedules, and whether it's for a brand, whether it is a schedule you already had for things that you need to, that it's a theme or whatever you need to put out there or whatever. And I know we're same with you, that we are 100% authentic. And I know that there are times when I'm like, okay, I know I need to put something out about this. And I will put, you know what? These are trying times, and I don't feel like I need to be putting content out right about this right now. And I'll put that in the caption, that whatever the situation is. So I'm getting somewhere, by the way. I get it. And so I'm if I'm trying really hard to be positive on the outside, and I know that there's some good and bad in that, it's not really authentic, and it's kind of like a fake it till you make it. Do I stay really positive until it kind of starts showing through, and then it kind of comes out or whatever? I guess what I'm trying to say is, I know you're so inspirational, and I know you put the authentic out there. And yes, you will put it out there when it's not so great and it's not so glamorous. But I do feel like you are so great about lifting people up a lot, more than I think most people. And so I guess my question to you is, where do you feel like it comes from? Like, do you think that is something that has generated over time? Do you think, because I haven't known you this whole time, so do you think that it has ramped up? Have you always been like that? Because it takes a strong person to lift other people up. Right. So do you think that strength has built up, or do you think that it's been there the whole time?
I think I've always had the initial qualities of that. Going to therapy again in the beginning was for postpartum, and then I had to start dealing with some other things. Like, I had to deal with some childhood trauma, and just some other levels of things that I've gone through. So as a kid, I felt like those things kind of were there. It's just always been there. I've heard people say, oh, you know, you can always count on Toi. Like, you know, the words like dependable and things like that have been words to describe me. But I think that once I started to get therapy or really deal with me, like the real me, and really figure out some things that I was even struggling with, I felt like it amped up because I was able to see things clearly. For instance, you wouldn't even know because it doesn't show that on the internet streets. But at some point, I used to be like the complainer. I used to complain about water, complain about shoelaces. Like it would just be, it didn't matter what it was. It would be as small or as big. And I'd be like, well, why she look like that? Why they doing that? Ooh, this is so stupid. Like just these types of conversations were inside of me. But a lot of that was me dealing with things that I didn't understand or some type of level of trauma that I didn't really tap into. And I feel like in the last, even just like 9 years, even before the blog started, I literally started to really challenge myself to deal with that. Instead of looking at it from a perspective of what other people were doing that was making me respond that way, what is it about me that was making me see things in that negative light? And so it took a long time for me to accept that. One, as much as we talk about people being toxic, I too was a toxic person. So I had to literally deal with myself. And instead of me looking out, every time something happens, even now when something happens, and instead of me looking at the other person, I'll look and deal with me first. Then it's easy for me to see like, okay, yes, I can call a spade a spade. That person is doing A, B, and C. And so I need to figure this out. But I deal with myself first. And a lot of the content that I put out is because those were places in which I dealt with me. If I'm putting out content that's talking about uplifting people, it's because there was a point in time where, again, my support system at the time, the way that I wanted it to be, didn't look the way I needed to look. And so my therapist was like, you have to start doing this. Sometimes it's going to have to come from you. And I had to learn that. And it was frightening to me because, you know, we're all taught that we're supposed to help other people. But I was literally in a situation where I felt like I was really by myself, and learning how to take care of me when I had to learn how to take care of me, even if nobody was there to help. Meaning if there was not a support system, if my husband was like, I'm not tapping in, if the kids were on another level, I had to learn to float on my own so that when other people come, it becomes an extra bonus, but I'm not dependent upon other people doing it. And so that's why, again, so many people, when you hear them say, I feel like I'm by myself, I'm alone. You can be alone in a group of people. You can be alone with a crowd of people around you, but it doesn't look the way that you want it to look. And so I had to learn that. So that's why it becomes more natural for me to uplift other people, because I know what it's like. If I can listen, you know how people say, if you can lift yourself, if you can lift the weight of yourself, you can lift other people. I think that's true. I learned to lift the weight of the stuff that I had that was years and years of stuff that was going wrong in my life that I contributed to, that I was telling myself that it was other people's problems. Like it was because somebody else did. I'm not negating that the actions of other people didn't highlight it, but a lot of the things that I was going through wasn't because of other people. It was because of me.
Right. Oh, I feel like I'm in a therapy session now.
With
therapy.
It's a therapy. It comes out. So it comes out. I mean, I know when people talk to me, they say that all the time, but it's not that I'm trying. It's just the fact that you go so many years of this negativity and this downtrodden and this everything is wrong and it's everybody's fault. You get tired of that. Like I got tired of me. I got sick and tired of me, and I got tired of me being my biggest weight. You know, we talk about how people, you don't never have enough resources, but when you're your own blockage, when you're blocking your own blessing, that is the weight of the world that I wish on no one. So that's why I always encourage people to check in with them and to continuously always check in with them, because sometimes we want to look out when the fingers are pointing into us and telling me like, what do I need to do to get me together? Like, there could be an argument, like even with my husband, a lot of times with marriages too, like you're looking at that other person to do something that you think they're supposed to be doing. And it's like, so what could you do to contribute? Because sometimes I'll do something and my husband will just naturally catch the rhythm. Instead of me trying to make him jump to the rhythm, I'll just do it myself and let him jump to that rhythm, because sometimes we want our mates or the person in our corner to kind of just take on, the responsibility of healing us. Like I used to say, oh, you're not there for me, you're not doing enough. And I'm like, what else can he do? Like, is he supposed to physically carry me? Like at some point I have to learn to lift the weight of myself.
Yeah. And Jerry's not here, which we will explain, of course, in the intro of this podcast why, but and I don't think he would mind that I'm saying this. I don't think. We'll see. But I know that sometimes I will, if I'm at a low moment, I will say, and now that you're saying this, I know that it probably does sound very selfish, but I will say, I need you to be my rock right now. I am struggling. I need you to fix this. Like, I need you to fix this. And it's probably pretty selfish of me to expect him to fix it. Like, how is he going to fix it? How's he going to fix whatever's going on? And it's nothing for him to fix. It's like whatever emotionally or mentally is going on with me. And,
right.
And he is very supportive. I mean, anyone who suffers from any, mental illness or anxiety, we do negate the pressures that of the people around us, that the caretakers or anyone around us who loves us, we don't think enough about what they go through. And so I know that there's a lot on the people who love us that, we don't think about that. And same with him. I mean, he has a lot of anxiety too, which he puts that out there. It's not like I'm saying that to anything that he hasn't put out there, but we need to all support each other and not put expectations of how they need to fix things for us.
And sometimes our expectations of what our person, whoever your person is in your life that is supposed to be doing something, we don't do well with communicating that. So sometimes we don't say the way we need to be supported. Like there's times where I've had to have a conversation. Like I tell my husband, I just need a hug. Like I just need a hug in this moment because that's what I need right now. And sometimes we don't say that. We think that our mates all of a sudden graduated from, mental telepathy. Like they're just supposed to know, like you get really comfortable in your relationship when you've been with someone for so long that you assume that your actions that you're doing is supposed to produce something in them to say, oh yeah, well, she needs me to go give her a hug. You can't get too comfortable in your relationship, whether you're married or not, to where you feel like that person is supposed to just automatically know. So I've gotten very comfortable in saying, you know what I need you to do? Can you just listen without giving me a response? Or can you just listen without trying to fix it? I just need you to listen. Or, I really need to just go to like maybe sit in the Target parking lot because that's what I need right now. Like something like as simple as that, because we have to communicate that to our partner. And we think that our partner's responsibility is to fix it. And they are they got their own silent battles as well. I mean, they can be supportive, but they can't always fix it. And sometimes our mates or our person is like stumbling in that way when they love you so much that they're trying to help you, but because you're not saying what you need, you're kind of handicapping them so that they can't give you what you need because you're not saying it.
Right. Okay. So what motivates you? I know that's a broad question, but what would you say is kind of a big motivator for you? If you need something to really motivate you, if you need something, what is it? Is there one specific thing, or do you look for something to motivate you?
It varies. There are times when a song will motivate me. I grew up singing in the choir, and my mother was the choir director. So you can just imagine levels of shenanigans in my house. Like I had to learn them songs before the choir did. And I know all the notes. So I could just like come in and like direct that choir if I had to. But sometimes I'll go back to those moments because those moments bring joy. Like they make me feel really excited about certain things. And so there's certain songs that I've remembered from singing in the choir that I'll go back and listen to. They'll motivate me depending on the mood. Sometimes there are certain books that I love to read, like certain authors like Michelle McKinney Hammond that just make me feel like, oh, I remember how I felt when I read that book. Or I'll look at a picture from vacation and I'll be like, remember how joyful you were when you were there? Like vacation joy can still continue after vacation. So I'll remember stuff like that. And Also, just writing in my journal is one way that I'll motivate myself, like getting
Okay.
out my thoughts of whatever it is I may have going on. And putting it on paper will say, okay, now that you've written it, you've acknowledged it. Now what are we going to do about it? And
Right.
so that type of situation is some things that I do literally all the time to try to motivate myself. Because we all have these bad days, these bad moments. I don't wake up bubbly and cheerful every single moment of the day. I don't always, there's times when I'm like finding myself, I go, you're not smiling or you're not really happy. That happiness versus joy conversation is something that I have with myself all the time. Like, you can be happy about happy moments, but real joy is even when things are going left, can you be grateful for the things that you have, and can you really just, have that level of gratitude? Because I didn't always have that. I told you I was displeased about everything, shoelaces, sun, anything. So one of the things that I actually started to do when I started going through therapy is that's how I knew about the national holidays. A lot of people don't know that story. The reason why I started gravitating to knowing what National Day was because there was something every single day that I could be happy about. So in the beginning, when I was struggling with getting past that negative thoughts, oh, it's National Coffee Day. Well, you like coffee, go find a cup of coffee that you really like or go to your favorite coffee shop. So that's how people will be like, well, how do you know that day? Started from coming from this negative place and looking for that every single day there was something to be happy about. There's at least 10 items in a given day. Literally 10 items a day.
I recognize that you always are aware of what national holiday it is. I'm always like, wow, how does she know that? And I knew that you recognize them, but I had no idea.
It came from me using that as a way to find something to be grateful about or finding something to be happy about. That's actually where it started from. A lot of people don't even recognize that. I don't even know if I even said that before out loud. But for me, I would go through and see what the national holidays were. Okay, there's 10 items. Well, you can find one of these that you can celebrate in some type of small way. You could go and put some confetti in the air about something that's going on. And so that's how it started. And so that's why I know what national holiday that it is per day because of that.
Oh my God. You've all heard us rave about Sugar Wish. I don't think there's a day that passes where I'm not telling somebody about it.
Sugar Wish is definitely one of those businesses where you ask yourself, why didn't I think of that?
How many times have you wanted or needed to send a gift to someone and it was either one, last minute, or two, you didn't want to send just another gift that's going to lay around and take up space?
Or you just didn't have any idea what to get the person? Sugar Wish allows you to send a sweet gift to someone and the recipient gets to choose their favorites.
We've received Sugar Wish gifts and sent Sugar Wish gifts, and they are always a hit. You cannot go wrong. It's super easy. You go to the website, sugarwish.com, choose the size of the gift you want to send, enter a personalized message and note tailored to the person you're sending it to. It arrives to that person or pup via email or text. The recipient then gets your message and then chooses what they want.
They have so many options to choose from. Candies, cookies, popcorn, snacks, tea, coffee, wine. Yes, wine. And Betty's fave, dog treats. Betty gets to choose from crunchy, chewy, jumbo, and training treats.
It's perfect for your fur baby or the dog lover in your life. Use code Betty White, that's all caps, one word, Betty White, to save $7 off of your Sugar Wish gift. We also have the link in the show notes. Sugar Wish always saves the day. That is
little things like that. There's literally little things like that that people don't realize. Some people gravitate towards because of whatever they got going on.
No, it's like when people say you should start a gratitude practice, and they say even if you can find one thing, if it's that you're breathing or it's the sun, if you're struggling to even find that, find your list. That's a great idea.
People honestly will be like, oh, that sounds like somebody's just being extra fake. Let me explain something to you. There's nothing fake about how negative and how low I was. And then looking at the day and be like, oh, it's national, wear a smile on your face. And I'm like, I can smile today. Like It literally was the reminder. That's all it was. These days, these national holidays, some of them are the most quirkiest things I have never in life heard of, right? Things in life that I have never in life heard of, like National Barbie Day. I'm like, There's a day for that, but there is a National Barbie Day. And so I look at my kids, and my daughter just got her little dream house, and I'm like, I'm living through her because I didn't have that as a kid. So like little things like that will remind me like how blessed that I am. Like, you can look at it and be like, I never had oh my gosh, I never had a Barbie dream house. But then I'm like, but I was able to provide that for my child. So it's like little things that I personally use every day that says, girl, you may think that you're out here like really at the lowest moment of moments, but you really are out here living. You're killing it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go through our rapid fire questions for you.
No.
And sometimes these are rapid fire, sometimes they're not.
Okay,
this is normally where Jerry likes to feel like he's a late night talk show host, but I get to do it this time.
Jerry, we're sorry, but I'm sure it'll be hilarious. We'll come back and maybe do another episode with you.
We will. We definitely will. Okay, so and these are some. Well, there's a couple of these that we think that they're just good questions to ask to get to know everyone, but most of these are tailored towards you. Okay. So number 1 is coffee or wine.
Oh, that's hard. Y'all tried it today. That's the first question off the bat. So y'all know, anybody that follows my page know that coffee and wine is doing a constant fight on my page. I like them both. Ooh, this is not right. Okay, if I had to go with one, I'm going with wine.
Okay.
All right, coffee.
Okay, and I'm going to see, this is not rapid fire because I'm going to say this really quickly. And I know I told you this at Blog Her. The last one is that on your podcast, which we're going to talk about in a second, on your podcast, there was one, I don't know if you've talked about it before, but there was one where you were actually pouring it and enjoying a glass of wine. And I was getting ready one morning. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning listening to it. And I was like, like, I feel like I need to go and pour a glass of wine right now. You're like, okay, I'm having a nice glass of, I don't know if it was Merlot or it was a glass of red. I know that. That's how memorable it was. That I felt like that morning at 7 a.m, I needed to go have a glass of wine. It was so memorable. Anyway,
that's wine and we go together. It is what it is. We go together.
Okay, number 2, Steelers or Eagles?
Ooh, I'm going with Eagles. I gotta go with Eagles.
Jerry's gonna be very happy with that.
If I said Steelers, I probably would be booted out the city right now.
Okay. All right. Number 3, eat in or dine out?
Dine out.
Okay.
I love changing my atmosphere and sitting at a restaurant is nothing better. My house, I'm like,
I didn't know because some self-care people are like, definitely want to have it in, but also self-care is you want someone else to you want to have the experience and then have someone else.
I meal prep in this house so that everybody can eat, and I am over it. And so anyone that's cooking for me, and I also like to dine outside, like al fresco. I love to be in the natural light of being like the elements on my skin. If I can eat outside, I'm a happy girl.
Okay. Number 4, sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. I'm a morning person.
Okay. Number 5, reading a book or listening to music?
Ooh. That's not right either. I'm going to say reading a book.
Okay. Number 6, text message or phone call?
I'm going to have to say text message. I love listening to people on the phone, but the 3 children that call me mom do not let me live. And I can't say earmuffs in my house enough when I'm having a conversation. So text it to me. Because if it's something that I cannot openly talk about, I need you to text it.
Okay.
And wait till 8 o'clock where I can then call you.
Okay. I might know the answer to this, but we'll see because we kind of talked about it. But taking a nap or a workout?
Oh gosh, give me my nap. I do love working out. I'm an avid runner. I've run marathons, but I love a good nap.
Okay. All right. And then on the topic of sleeping, going to bed early or sleeping in?
Let me sleep in. Oh my gosh. Yes. As much as I am a morning person, I love those few times when I can just wake up and it's like, is that noon? Okay. Is that noon? My kids let me sleep till noon. Is something okay? Is the house burning down? I start sniffing around like, is the house burning? What's going on? So yeah, sleeping in is a beautiful piece of life. That's everything.
Okay. Handwritten letter or email?
I love a handwritten letter.
Me too.
I am still old school, so my friends know I will randomly send people a handwritten letter. And I know people say that snail mail is dead. You can get snail mail from me. So I have a collection of different cards that are usually plain so that I can write people a handwritten letter.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then this is the last one, and we think this is super important. Ketchup or mustard?
Who? Jerry asked this question. He getting fired in the question department. I'm gonna say ketchup.
Okay.
Only time I'm on team mustard is for pretzels, for the Philadelphia pretzel. Outside of that, ketchup all day.
He did not ask this, but I'm just curious because he's a big Phillies fan. Do you like the Phillies? Do you guys go to the Phillies? Okay.
We go to the games as well. Yes, I love a good tailgate. Like I love the tailgate.
Yeah, we're gonna go see you and we're going to tailgate. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm always team tailgate.
Okay, the most important question that we feel like, and we ask everyone, is what does a life well lived mean to you?
I think a life well lived to me is a life that I feel proud about. So it doesn't matter about what everybody else's opinion of me. If when I go my last breath and I feel like I've done well, like I've done the things that have made me happy. I have tried my best to be a light to other people. And I have vacationed well and done all of those things that truly make me excited about life and happy. That is what I feel like is life lived well. It's not having the things. Things are great. But if I can literally look down in myself and say, I've treated people as best as I could, and I've treated myself well, like literally treated myself well, and how I talk to myself, how I treat myself, how I allow other people to treat me. That is life living well.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
I'm just saying that is really bad. You know how many people are worrying about gathering all this stuff that they know they ain't going to be able to use just to of having?
Yes.
No, that's not life to me. That's beautiful to have. If you have the funds and all those things to grab them, then do you, if that makes you happy. But for me, I want to be able to say, I treated myself well, and I also commanded the same treatment for other people to treat me well too.
Yeah. You can't carry this stuff with you. And I'll tell you this too, not to bring it down, but when my grandmother passed away, she was a pack rat. She wasn't a hoarder, but she was just a pack rat. Like she just kept a bunch of stuff of like when we were kids and all this stuff. When she passed away, I think what was so hard is we were all so sad that she had passed away, but we all had to go to her house and pack it all up and figure out what to do with it. And we all felt all this guilt about, well, what are we going to do with this? And nobody wanted to get rid of anything. And well, you feel weird about getting rid of her stuff. And well, what do you do with it? And it's too much pressure and guilt to put on the family. So
yeah, I've had that experience too. I've had to go to, a house and having to pack that up. And yeah, I am, I'm not a minimalist at all, but I will say that I don't like clutter. And so I don't like to hide a whole lot of things. I mean, there are things that, of course, that mean things to people and mean things to me. But in its place and time. And I think sometimes we just accumulate so much just for the sake of accumulation. And you're not going to be able to take any of that with you. And again, I always think like my kids are not going to want like the things I think they're going to want. They do not want. Like they don't want my wedding dress. By the time they get married, they're gonna be in a space dress somewhere, getting married over some clouds. Like they're not gonna want my wedding dress. Like they're not gonna want my boots that I thought was so bomb. Like they don't care. So yeah, that type of stuff. I try to just be like, no, we get rid of that.
Yeah. Well, before we go, I definitely want you to tell our listeners where they can find you, but I definitely want to talk about really quick. You have your own podcast called Conversations with Toi.
Right.
So if you can talk about that really quickly and then tell our listeners where they can find you.
All right. So Conversations with Toi. Sometimes there's guests and sometimes there's not. We talk about really mental health, self-care. We talk about the things that are happening in the world as it relates to those topics. And I enjoy like having a fresh conversation about some of the tools and things that people can use to become better mentally and emotionally. And so I enjoy that. And that's been going on for a little over a year. And where you can find me, Toy Time Blog. So listen, my mom was trying to be different. So she was really trying to be different. So a lot of people, when they see me, they be like, LaToya. And I'm like, no, there's no A. It's spelled LATOI is my real name, but I go by Toy, TOI. And so when I made the blog, I wanted to be my time. So I called it Toy Time Blog. So it's TOITIMEBLOG. And that's how you can find me everywhere on social media. I got a Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of the things, Snapchat. I'm on all of those things. Wherever the peoples are. That's why I say these internet streets, I'm on them. You can come and find me.
I mean, I when I first met you, I definitely remembered how to find you because of Toy Time Blog. Like I never forget it. It's very easy.
I'm like, and so I actually had to change my name on Instagram as Toy Time Blog, because you know how many people would never call me Toy. They would just say, hey, Toy Time Blog, when I would go places virtually, and they would say, hey, Toy Time Blog, and I will answer to it if you call me either one. It doesn't make a difference. I got people who've known me for years that say Toy Time Blog now. It doesn't bother me. But so I had put it as Toy Time Blog, just so people would know that my name, people call me Toy. That is what people call me.
Yeah. Well, we will link all that in the show notes. How do you get to all that? And of course, your podcast. And we are so thankful for your time today. We know it's so valuable. So we are so appreciative, and all of the knowledge you just dropped on us, and that whole therapy session. I felt like it was therapy. It was very valuable to me. So I know it was valuable to everyone else. So thank you so much.
That's always my goal. If I'm going to say something, let it be something that's valuable to somebody, or at least make them laugh, because they probably be like, this girl is crazy. They think that, but that's fine too. I'm okay with that as well.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you for having me.
Toy is so great, right?
Oh yeah, she is.
I love her. She is as nice in person as she is, on her blog, on social media. If you follow her, she is, that word, the authentic, but she is who she is 100%. Her story is a great one, like all of our guests, but with Toy, I feel like the day that we did the interview, you know what? I mentioned it in there that it felt like I was having my own therapy session. I hope that she got as much out of it as I did. But, I said I was on my own adventure. Actually, my mom is in the process of moving. So I went to, it was she sort of moved further away from me. So it was
I didn't tell you, I had to interrupt, but her bill did arrive in the mail today.
My mom's?
No, Toys for your therapy session. Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to show it to you. It's
okay, Toy. You'll I'll have to put me on a payment plan. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I just, it was a lot. I had just gotten over kind of a long drive, but the second day after, but it was just one of those weeks, and just kind of I don't know. It was just a culmination of a lot of things. And, but I was really looking forward to her podcast. And I just said to Jerry that morning, I was like, I am so glad that I get to talk to Toy, because when I knew that it was going to be just like having this conversation with a friend, because she is so positive. And like I said to her, where does it come from? And, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I needed it. I hope that it was very beneficial to you all listening, because she is amazing. She's just amazing.
I felt that way too. I felt immediately comfortable with her, not having the background Shannon did with her. I just really warmed up right away, and I enjoyed everything she said.
Yeah. We apparently were both in, when we went to LA to the Blog Her conference. She was there, and I didn't know her at the time, And then sort of virtually met her, of course, and we've known each other through Blog Her virtually and then through COVID. And then the first time I met her face to face was in Brooklyn, this past Blog Her conference that came back face to face. And it felt like I'd known her the whole time. It felt like I'd known her for years.
I could see that with her.
Yeah. She's just amazing. And I mean, you all heard, and it's true in the beginning when I said, she really does. Like, I will just sort of be having sort of a kind of a rough week, and I'll get on Instagram, and there will be a DM from her, just like with this motivating post or something. And I'm just like, how did you know that I needed that? It's just the craziest thing. So I highly encourage you to follow her. I love that she talked about how people, and look, we do it too. Okay. We use the filters. We use the pretty, we have our filter that we call Miami. We call the Miami filter that we sort of have this look on our pictures. And she called them the light and airy photos that a lot of people use. And that she just doesn't do it. And I think that is what truly makes her so relatable. It makes her actually authentic. And so when you go to her page, you're like, yep, this is Toi. This is Toi, and this is what's going on. And she just makes you feel like you're her friend. And I'm not just saying that about me. I mean, anyone that goes to her page, it's like you, or her feed, her blog, her feed, anything, her podcast, Conversations with Toi. It's as if you really know who she is. It's great.
Well, yeah, I thought it was really nice of her to include me in on the conversation, even though I wasn't there for the interview.
Right. It's because you used to be a Philly John. Philly John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so she thought she would just bring me on into the room.
She sure did.
That was pretty neat.
She sure did. And we're going to go to a Phillies game with her and her husband.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more about Toi, of course, we're going to have all the links that you need in the show notes. And if you want any information about today's episode, of course, you can find them there. And you can always find information about us at arnertventures.com or on Instagram at arnertventures, also linked in the show notes.
So until next time, enjoy the journey that you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye.